The story starts with Calvin, a goon prisoner who has been serving time in jail for stealing jewelry. Today is his last day in jail, and a police officer arrives to unlock his cell and escort him out. As he walks out, the other inmates seem quite scared of him and hold a lot of respect for him because Calvin was the most powerful prisoner out there. However, as soon as he steps out of the jail, it is revealed that he is a dwarf, standing just 3 feet tall. Just then, his friend Percy arrives to pick him up from jail but accidentally knocks Calvin out with the car door. During the ride, Percy shares his plan for their next heist with Calvin, explaining that a notorious gangster named Joaquin has promised a $100,000 reward to whoever can steal the diamond from a jewelry store. On the other hand, we see a couple, Daryl and Vanessa, celebrating their anniversary at a restaurant. Vanessa informs Daryl that she has good news for him, prompting Daryl to excitedly exclaim, "I'm going to be a dad," causing an awkward moment in the restaurant. However, Vanessa quickly clarifies that the good news is actually about her job promotion, which dampens Daryl's excitement. Nonetheless, he congratulates his wife. It becomes apparent that while Daryl is eager to start a family, Vanessa wants to focus on her career and is not yet ready for a child. Meanwhile, we see Percy stuffing Calvin into a bag to sneak into the jewelry shop and steal the diamond. Percy distracts the manager by pretending to be a famous rapper, while Calvin, with his chicken legs, goes underneath the diamond counter and swipes the diamond. However, a dog belonging to a woman present at the scene sneaks into Calvin's bag. As Percy leaves with Calvin, the dog starts barking, causing the woman to accuse Percy of stealing her dog and attracting the attention of the manager, who notices that the diamond is missing and calls the police. The duo tries to escape in their car, but it's been booted for illegal parking, forcing them to continue on foot. The police officers give chase, but they manage to evade them by hiding in a shop where Daryl and Vanessa are arguing about their plans to have a baby. Calvin seizes the opportunity and hides the diamond in Vanessa's bag, ensuring that even if the police catch him, they won't find the diamond on him. The police search for the thieves but end up beating the wrong man before leaving the shop. Meanwhile, as Daryl and Vanessa head home, Percy and Calvin secretly follow them to reclaim the diamond from Vanessa's bag. At home, we see that Vanessa's father Pops also lives with them due to his illness. He doesn't particularly like Daryl because he thinks Daryl isn't capable of putting a child in Vanessa's tummy. Meanwhile, Calvin and Percy eavesdrop on their conversation from the window. Percy comes up with a plan to leave Calvin at their doorstep, making Daryl and Vanessa think someone abandoned a baby there. When they bring Calvin inside, he'll seize the opportunity to steal the diamond from Vanessa's bag. Calvin isn't thrilled with Percy's plan, but he doesn't have any better ideas. Following the plan, Percy leaves Calvin outside Daryl's house in a basket, but before someone can open the door, a nearby dog pees on Calvin. When Daryl opens the door, he and Vanessa are shocked to find an abandoned baby on their doorstep with a note written in terrible English. Daryl picks the baby up, only to be hit by a foul smell due to the dog pee. They assume that his diaper needs changing, but when they open it, they're shocked to find that Calvin's stick is massive, leading Pops to believe that Johnny Sins has abandoned his son. Vanessa thinks they should ring child services, but Calvin intentionally starts coughing and wheezing, so they take him to the hospital first. There, they discover that Calvin has a tattoo on his hand and a wound on his waist, making them suspect abuse. The doctor examines him and informs them it's only a minor cold, nothing to worry about. As Daryl tries to convince Vanessa to keep Calvin for a week before taking him to child services, Calvin seizes the opportunity and runs off with Vanessa's bag. However, a police officer picks him up and starts playing with him endearingly. Vanessa and Daryl suddenly arrive and reluctantly claim him as their own child because Daryl wants to keep him until Monday. On the other hand, Joaquin gives Percy a final warning to bring him the diamond within the next 24 hours, or he'll put a bullet in his head. Meanwhile at home, Calvin settles on Pop's sofa, all set to eat the cookie, but Pops takes it away from him, making Calvin angry. In a fit of rage, Calvin rubs the cookie under his diaper and puts it back on the plate while Pops is busy ranting about how ugly Calvin is. After a while, Daryl and Vanessa's friends come over to meet their temporarily adopted child. However, they are taken aback by his rather unattractive appearance but still cheer for him. The men try to play with him, but Calvin doesn't like it and sets some boundaries by teaching them a nice lesson. Although Calvin is acting like a baby, he cannot suppress his manly urges. He holds onto one of Vanessa's friends and tries grabbing her. She thinks that Calvin is hungry and hands her over to Janet to feed him breast milk, but Calvin recoils in disgust. While everyone is leaving, Calvin once again seizes the opportunity to give Brittany a tight kiss when she comes close to him. Not only that, but he also kept pushing Vanessa's face down while she was dressing him. Once everyone is asleep, Calvin executes his plan and steals Vanessa's purse before calling Percy to come pick him up. However, Pops overhears everything and holds Calvin at gunpoint. Right then, Daryl also wakes up and refuses to believe Pop's story, thinking the old man has gone mad. He thinks that Calvin is hungry and takes him to the kitchen to get some milk. For the first time in his life, Calvin experiences a father's love and becomes emotional. Vanessa witnesses the bonding between father and son from the doorway but interrupts to inform them that the milk they are drinking is actually Janet's breast milk, causing them to immediately spit it out. Finally, Daryl tucks Calvin into his bed and then returns to his own bed to get naughty with Vanessa. Vanessa warns him that Calvin is watching them, but Daryl thinks he is just a child and won't understand these things. The next morning, Vanessa's face beams with a special glow as she thanks Daryl for the stamina he showed the previous night. However, Daryl is confused because he doesn't think he did anything out of the ordinary. Just then, they notice Calvin had sneaked into their bed during the night, but they don't dwell on it too much and quickly return to their regular chores. Later on, while Pops is reading the newspaper, Calvin eats all of Pop's breakfast without him noticing. Seeing his plate empty, Pops accuses Calvin of stealing his food. However, Vanessa can't believe that a little child could eat that much and becomes upset with Pop's constant rudeness toward Calvin. Even Daryl confesses to her how he caught the old man holding a gun on Calvin the previous night. After a while, Calvin covertly retrieves the diamond from Vanessa's purse and stashes it in his diaper bag. With that done, he just needs to slip out of the house without creating a scene. However, Daryl takes him to the park, where Calvin repeatedly damages Daryl's nuts with his toys. Soon after, Percy arrives to collect the diamond from Calvin. However, onlookers suspect him of being a child thief and run after him, prompting Percy to flee with one of the diaper bags on the table. Upon delivering the diaper bag to Walken, it turns out to be the wrong bag that only contains the waste of children. Walken affords him a second chance and assigns his henchman to keep an eye on him. While returning home, Calvin seizes the opportunity to run away with Daryl's car, but naive Daryl still thinks that someone stole his car along with the child. He hitches a ride with a woman and tells her to follow his car, but she drives like there's no tomorrow. Eventually, the police intercept Daryl's car, and Calvin quickly jumps into the passenger seat, making the police believe the thief has fled. On the weekend, Daryl takes Calvin to an ice hockey match along with his other friends. There, Calvin attempts to quietly steal the diamond from his diaper bag, but before Daryl catches him in the act, Calvin hastily swallows the rock to avoid getting caught. The game goes well until Calvin discreetly drinks a man's beer next to him and calls a server a fat ass, resulting in Daryl facing the consequences. Upon returning home, the couple puts Calvin into sleep and decides to throw him a birthday party the next day. Although Calvin is initially bored, when it's time to cut the cake, he becomes quite emotional upon receiving affection from Daryl and Vanessa, as if he is experiencing the love of his own parents. On the flip side, Pops catches a news report on TV in a restaurant about Calvin being a wanted thief. He devises a plan to expose Calvin and gifts him a teddy bear for his birthday, which has a camera hidden in its eyes. Meanwhile, Percy shows up at Daryl's house and claims Calvin as his own child, but Daryl knocks him out, as he believes that Percy is an abusive father who isn't right for Calvin. Unfortunately, Walken's henchmen witness the altercation and assume that Daryl is in cahoots with Percy and has the diamond. After the party, Calvin drinks a bottle of laxative to pass the swallowed diamond. The plan works, and Calvin shits the diamond, but Vanessa finds it out while cleaning his mess. She thinks that it's a surprise gift from her husband and jumps on his lap in excitement. Daryl tries to explain that the diamond isn't from him, but she doesn't give him a chance to speak. Later that evening, they go out to dinner to celebrate the moment, leaving Pops in charge of taking care of Calvin. Pops lifts Calvin in the air, pretending to play with him, only to drop him to the ground. Eventually, Calvin comes clean to him and threatens Pops not to tell anyone. Meanwhile at the restaurant, Vanessa tells Daryl that she is ready to adopt Calvin and make him their own. The couple excitedly returns home only to witness Pops strangling Calvin. Horrified, they turn to the authorities and kick Pops out of the house. Before being taken away, Pops tells Daryl to look at the teddy because it knows everything. Even Daryl is shocked that such a young child could cause such a mess. He checks the teddy bear and discovers that it's actually a camera. He connects it to the TV and finds the footage of Calvin threatening Pops. He immediately rushes into Calvin's bedroom, only to find him missing along with the diamond. Meanwhile, Calvin and Percy are back together, celebrating that they finally got the diamond. Percy tells Calvin that Walken's henchmen are after Daryl and his family because they think Daryl is the one who stole the stone. Hearing this, Calvin kicks Percy out of the car and drives back to Daryl's house to save him. Meanwhile, Vanessa goes to look for her father. After a while, Walken and his goons arrive at Daryl's house and demand the diamond from him. Just then, Calvin arrives, pretending to be a baby, and beats up the gangsters as they underestimate him. Daryl fights with Walken while Calvin takes care of the others. The fight goes on until the police show up and arrest the criminals. When an officer asks Daryl about Calvin, he saves him by claiming Calvin is his kid. However, he still makes Calvin hand over the diamond to the police. The officer informs them that they will receive a $100,000 reward for finding the diamond. Now the two of them are left alone in the house. Calvin, with his teary eyes, thanks Daryl for everything and bids him farewell. As he walks through the door, he begins crying loudly at the thought that he will never have a family again. Seeing him crying, Daryl feels bad for him and decides to keep him as a family member. Fast forward to 9 months later, Vanessa gives birth to a baby boy, but to everyone's surprise, the baby's face looks exactly like Calvin's. That's it for today, guys. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.